back, class. We're about to enter into making another sculpture. So I need to ask you, what is a sculpture? What makes a sculpture different from a drawing and a painting? There's one thing that's super important that a sculpture needs to be in order for it to be a sculpture and have it not be in a drawing or a painting. So think about that for a moment before I click to the next slide. So a sculpture has to be 3D. Paintings and drawings are generally flat, but sculptures are three-dimensional. That means they have height, and they have width, and then they have depth. They go back. So that's 3D. And here's some examples of three-dimensional sculptures. This spider is totally awesome. I visited it a few times. And the first time I saw it, it seemed kind of creepy and scary because it's so huge. These are people here. But as I got closer to it, I got used to it a little bit more every time I went to it. And the person that made this actually really loves spiders. And this is called the mother. This is the mother spider. And in here is a basket of her eggs. And she liked the fact that spiders would catch pesky kinds of insects like mosquitoes and flies. And so she thought spiders are really important. Here's an awesome sculpture that's down in the Twin Cities. You may have seen it before. It's Spoonbridge and Cherry, made by some very famous sculpture artists. And this one is a fountain. So what comes out of the tip of this cherry is a lovely fine mist. I love this one. And I'll bet you recognize some of these characters. They're Star Wars characters. And what are they made from? They're made from crayons. Usually you would draw with crayons, but in this case, the crayons themselves become a sculpture. So sculptures can be huge and sculptures can be tiny. And sculptures can be made out of anything. So this sculpture was made by collected garbage. The artist would collect garbage off the beach, like plastics that she didn't want to have go into the ocean. And then she would make them into this big, beautiful sculpture that people could enjoy, and it would protect the marine animals, which is such a cool idea. So the other question I want to ask you is, what is clay? So this is a chart that describes the sizes of rocks, pebbles, sand. You can all see the rocks here, and you can't make a vase out of sand. You can't make it out of pebbles, and you can't make it out of rocks. So what is clay? Clay is the smallest rock that we can find. It's so tiny you can't even see it with your eye, and therefore it becomes really smooth when it's mixed in water because it's not gritty like sand or clunky like pebbles. So clay actually describes the size of rocks. Today you're going to be working in white clay. This is what clay can look like when it comes from the earth when it's dry. This is what it can look like when it's wet. And this is what it can look like when it's actually cut into the earth. So this topsoil grows grass, and then underneath it are bigger rocks until you get down over here to the clay where there's small rocks that this man is harvesting. And over here is a bag of clay that I get from the clay company. And that's how we get our clay in the classroom. This is the kind of clay I usually like you using at your house. Play-Doh's great, modeling clay, Fimo clay. They're all great clays to use at your house, but they're not like the clay that I give you that's made out of tiny rocks. So I usually don't have you use the earthenware clay at home, but with distance learners, I will, of course. And then you have to bring it back so I can fire it. This kind of clay doesn't need firing. As a matter of fact, it would burn up in the kiln, so we don't need to worry about that. But with this clay that I'm giving you, you will have to return it to school so I can fire it for you. So Mrs. Samala usually likes you to use this kind of clay. So now that we know what clay is, what are we going to make out of it? We're going to make some bud vases. When my own children were small, they used to pick small, short-stemmed flowers, and I would put them in a big, huge vase, and they'd kind of just fall over. So these flowers, these vases, I love the size of them. You can put in one huge flower or two huge flowers, or you can make a tiny bouquet of flowers out of them. What I'll ask you to do today is make a cylinder shape, and then you can shape it out into any interesting way you want, and then add textures to the outside. These are all smooth, but I like the textures down here. You can make a nice edge that flutes out, or a neck that goes in and then comes back out. And then please return it to class while the clay is still wet. Return it in a bag. Thank you. So let's go ahead and start making some bud vases from the next video. Thanks for watching, friends. Bye.